What is up, Heat fans? We have a loaded show for you guys today, and it revolves around two main storylines for your Miami Heat. Storyline number one is the fact that Christian Wood might want to come to the 305, and the second one, we have a latest on Damian Lillard, as there is not a lot of traction between the two teams. Again, that's a shocker as of no one, but we will be getting to that later in the show. But before we do get to Christian Wood, we are in the midst of an August sub-battle with our Bulls Report channel. We got off to an early lead, and they're catching up a little bit. We're at 74 subs for the month. They're at 63. I want to get some revenge on the Bulls from the 90s and win this sub-battle, so if you're mad for MJ stealing some potential rings from the Heat in the 90s, hit that sub button right now. All right, let's move into Christian Wood because there is a little bit of an update on Wood. It seems like he wants to come to the Miami Heat, but an NBA insider kind of made it seem with an interesting quote that Wood is either going to end up on the Heat or the Lakers. Let's dive into that quote right here. And this is kind of what Deverey said, Sean Deverey, and then Tristan Tucker kind of put it in the words in his article. Wood's summer seems to have two potential endings, as of now, according to Devaney. If a Lillard trade occurs and the Heat wish to sign Wood, he's likely Miami bound. If a Lillard trade doesn't happen, or the Heat wish to fill out their roster with only minimum contracts, Wood would likely head to the Lakers. And my kind of first thoughts on this is that it seems like Christian Wood wants to play in the 305 for the Miami Heat. If he's reporting that if the Heat offer him a contract or trade for Lillard and want to have him join ship, he is likely Miami bound, that makes it seem like he does want to end up playing for the Heat. And the question is, do the Miami Heat want to bring in a guy like Wood? Because there are a lot of positives, there are a lot of negatives that we will dive into. But I will start by saying this. Christian Wood could potentially be a perfect scoring option off the bench for your Miami Heat. I mean, obviously Tyler Herro's in the starting lineup, but assuming he's getting traded in a Damian Lillard move, then you're going to not have any scoring off that bench. And maybe Caleb Martin can be that guy, but Wood is a certified scorer and has done it over the last 4 seasons. There are questions surrounding Wood on the other side of the floor and his winning mentality, yeah, but one thing you can't question for the big man out of UNLV is the fact that he can really put the ball in the basket. I mean, he averaged 21 a night for the Rockets 3 seasons ago. 2 years ago for the Rockets, he put up 18 a game. Last year in Dallas, things didn't go too well for the Mavs, but he put up points for them. And I know that the scoring wasn't the reason why the Mavs were losing games. It was their defense, and Wood definitely contributed to that defect of the Dallas Mavericks. But he also put up 16 a night there, shot 52% from the field if you round up, and 37% from three. That is someone that could play the 4 spot next to Bam Adebayo and potentially space the floor and make a high-potent Miami Heat offense. We'll dive into Christian Wood here more in a second, but I want you to pretend that you're Pat Riley or Andy Ellisberg and be the GM for the Miami Heat. Are you signing Christian Wood? Type S for sign, type P for pass. It is today's pinned comment, so if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, let it play, scroll down, and answer today's question. I think I'm taking the shot on Christian Wood. I really do think the benefits and the upside of Wood joining the Heat outweigh the cons. And there are some serious cons because the Heat are a defensive-minded ball club that play a specific style of basketball, and Wood might not fit that. But when you look at the dilemma of Christian Wood, he is a very solid 3-level scorer. You just saw his stats a little bit ago. He puts up 15 a night easily, and he can score at the rim. He can score in the mid-range. He can hit 3-point shots. This guy's 6'10", 6'11", shooting 36, 37% from 3. He can put the ball in the hoop. And when you look at what the Heat did in the NBA Finals, they struggled to score. They scored over 100 points against the Denver Nuggets only one time in that NBA Final Series, and that simply can't happen. So Wood would help them offensively, but he plays no defense whatsoever. And as my producer here, Jeffrey Cooperstein, let me know before we started filming, he might be one of the worst defenders in all of hoops. And I tell you what, after watching some of the tape, I completely agree. And we know that the Heat require defense if you're going to play meaningful minutes and close out basketball games. So Wood would help offensively, but he would definitely be a liability on the defensive end. But there is someone he'd be playing next to named Bam Adebayo. And the reason why I do think it could work of Wood and Bam, because if you play the two together, you have a power forward at 6'10", 6'11", that can rebound the rock, space the floor, and hit jumpers. But you got Bam, who can be the slashing guy inside. And then when you talk about the defensive end, Wood struggles, yes. But Bam is the best defender on the planet, in my opinion. So Bam would be able to mask a lot of the deficiencies that Christian Wood has. So I would be very intrigued to see Wood be the backup 5 for Bam, or maybe slide in and play the 4 and have Bam stay at the 5. I think the two could work really well together defensively and offensively. But the last dilemma I have with him, does he fit the Miami Heat's winning culture? It's a serious question you have to ask. And Coop also let me know that if he's not getting the rock, he's not the focal point off the offense, he's going to hang his head, not play defense. And if you already stink at defense and then you're going to give no effort on the defensive end, I don't know if I'm willing to fly with that. So I did mention that I would be okay with taking the flyer on Wood because I think the positives outweigh the negatives. But those two negatives of defense and the effort and the winning culture ability of Wood do raise some serious red flags. But when you do think of this Miami Heat roster with Damian Lillard or without Damian Lillard, they do need bench scoring in a bad way. Say they roll with the lineup they have right now. Who you got coming off the bench to be that scorer? Is it going to be Caleb Martin? Is it going to be Josh Richardson? How much can you put on their shoulders to be the leading man for the second unit? It's a serious question to ask, and especially with Max Strus leaving and Gabe Vincent leaving, you're losing scoring and pivotal figures for the Miami Heat going forward. I think I might have to take the chance on Wood just for that scoring off the bench. Coming up now, we have the latest on Damian Lillard and the potential trade for him to come over to 305. Joe Cronin still being a little bit of a scumbag and not negotiating with Miami. We'll break that down coming up in a second. But first, I have the deal of a lifetime for you guys. If you go to our link at chatsports.com/Heat sweatshirt, you will get this unbelievable Miami Heat sweatshirt, $44 off. It will be in the comments. It will be in the description. You can click on that link and get a deal of a century here. We're also approaching the fall, and it's going to get a little cooler in that 305 area. Or if you're up north, you're going to need a hoodie. So chatsports.com/Heat sweatshirt. Take advantage of our limited time deal right now and grab yourself a Miami hoodie for the upcoming winter. Now, I will say this as we transition into Damian Lillard, that this situation is getting very dangerous, and I'm getting a little nervous. Not nervous in the fact that he's not going to come to Miami, but I am nervous to the fact this could ruin team chemistry at a really high level. Let's check out what Brian Windhorst had to say. This is about the NBA rumor mill as a whole, but Damian Lillard did get slipped into here. He said, Woj reported the 76ers have ended trade talks involving Harden. What I would say, and did what trade talks? I don't think there's any active trade talks in the NBA right now. Certainly not active for Dame Lillard, and I don't think there's anything active for Harden. This could be an absolute disaster. And you might ask yourself, why do I think this could get very troubling for the Heat? Well, the one reason why is because if this drags into training camp, you're going to have dudes showing up that know they were in trade discussions, are willing to be shipped out for Damian Lillard, and you're not going to be able to get a full team chemistry, and you're going to start the season shitty because you're going to have no chemistry, and you need good chemistry to win in the NBA. If you look at some key dates that are approaching very quickly, we got this week and potentially next week the NBA schedule releases. And I know the NBA wants to have this Damian Lillard situation resolved so they can put the Heat on more primetime games and get Damian Lillard in the spotlight, but obviously it doesn't seem like that is heading in the right direction. At the end of September, it depends on if you're playing an overseas game during training camp or not, but at the end of October, or end of September, early October is when training camp starts. October 10th is the first Heat preseason game against the Charlotte Hornets, and then the 24th, the Heat don't play on opening night, but that is when the NBA season begins, and you might think there is a lot of time between now and October 24th, but it is going to come up very quickly, and you do not want this trade discussions to drag in the training camp. I kind of just went on a little tangent about it. You don't want to have bad vibes in the locker room, at the practice facility, and if you're going to have that, you have to be prepared for a letdown of a season. The Heat just made the NBA Finals. Yes, they're looking to upgrade this roster to get over that hump. But Tyler Hero has been in trade discussions, and I know he's not feeling the love right now from Miami, which is fair because he's been the center of trade discussions in the Miami Heat system for a long time. You also got guys like Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez Jr., who don't know if they're playing for the Heat next season. And if they come into camp and there's still those Damian Lillard questions, how are they going to be able to form and come together to be the best basketball team that they can be? And we know the Heat don't have the most offensive talent, so they need to be the best at the little things. Rebounding, defense, team basketball, and have that good chemistry. You're not going to have that if it drags into camp. But I also bring this from a different perspective, because if it's not Miami and you don't want that to happen, think of Portland, right? Like, this is what Aaron J. Fentress of the Oregonian had to say on Damian Lillard. Bringing Dame into camp would just be a toxic situation because Dame doesn't want to play in Portland and lose anymore. He's done with it. So force him to do that. He'd view it as an extreme level of disrespect, and that would lead to some problems. So move him, end it. And I just mentioned the same reasons why the Heat don't want this to bring in the camp, but why would the Blazers want to bring this in the camp? You just had the 3rd overall pick, Scoot Henderson. You have Anthony Simons. You have Shaedon Sharpe. Why would you want a dark cloud of Damian Lillard coming into your training camp, one, ruining their team vibes, and then also ruin the potential growth of a Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons? It doesn't make sense for both sides to drag this out in the training camp. That's why I do think it gets done late August, maybe early September, but it is scaring me a little bit that there still has not been any substantial talks between Joe Cronin, the Blazers, and Pat Riley and the Miami Heat. Now, I got to ask you this. We asked you a question earlier about Christian Wood, but this one is one that intrigues me a lot. Will Dame get traded to the Heat before training camp? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm hoping to spam my Ys in order to have him join the 305, the Miami Heat, before camp so the Heat can get off to a blazing start when we get to October, late October. Yeah, Coop, no pun intended. That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for tuning in. If you want more Heat analysis, Heat news, Heat rumors, Heat memes, follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. I'm talking all things Miami Heat. So if you want to be the most informed Heat fan on the planet, subscribe to the channel, but also follow me on Twitter.